Welcome back. We're continuing with the ongoing program of today. Today's Swarms AI Career Triathlon. With us today is Manuel Lopez. So this whole session, the whole program of today is dedicated to empowering you with pragmatic knowledge on how to improve your career and take advantage of incoming opportunities in the AI field. Um, I'm very excited to hear from Manuel Lopez Ramirez because he is in a interesting intersection of legal technology, AI adoption, and then operational rigor. Because he's been a program manager, he's been applying this in many different areas across both the technology specific use cases as well as the administrative and procedural aspects of this. Uh,
Mhm.
so with that being said, Manuel, maybe you can give us a little bit of a background as to who you are and what you do, and we could take it from there.
Yes, thank you, Joaquin. I appreciate the invite and thank you everybody for joining to this community, the Swarm community. I am very honored to be participating and contributing. The AI space is definitely developing quite fast. So what we learned yesterday completely changed today, right? So we are pivoting very fast at an exponential speed. So I've been implementing AI projects for a few years. I have learned many things along the way, and I'm glad and happy to share all those experiences in many different sectors. I'm not representing a specific company sector, but my background is on legal tech. I also do nonprofit work, and I do have a commission in the Ohio Commission Latino Affairs, which has given me some visibility to AI projects within the state government. But with that, I would like to appreciate any kind of questions that you may have about maybe my experiences, the type of technologies I've been exposure, working with vendors like third-party vendors and how to integrate those within a large enterprise. Um, so feel free to ask me, and I'll do my best to answer and be helpful here.
I think we can start out by discussing building products that use large language models and speech to text capabilities. Um, I think you left out telecommunications being another area where you have expertise as well. But you see telecommunications and legal and even nonprofit, there is an opportunity to make information accessible through some sort of verbal interface. So I'd love to hear how you're kind of building that into enterprise settings and non-trivial environments that requires rigor and quality assurance and all these other capabilities.
Yes, definitely. So the main part is communicating the goal overall over a large enterprise, um, aligning the teams that are involved. Of course, in large enterprises, you will have to work with WAM enterprises, API developers, and different partners within the company and external companies, um, like telecommunications, like you mentioned, and especially contact centers, software vendors that are now providing AI capabilities within their products, right? So analyzing those capabilities, how we can incorporate them with what we already have, what we can develop, and what the company already has built in from scratch to incorporate all that into our final product. And depending on what type of product and who our client will be, um, we can definitely align and target those um, technologies to better accommodate um, the final user.
From the perspective of an organization that you're advising or guiding through the adoption of AI, what are some of the factors that come into the picture when you're selecting a vendor, selecting a contractor to provide some sort of solution? Are there any major themes that you explore when you're evaluating different kinds of solutions in the market?
Yes, definitely. With AI, everything may seem new. Every vendor may have their own newer and better version of their product. And it's just a case of aligning the teams, providing a demo from the third-party vendor, and asking questions, really, how is this product going to help us the best to satisfy the requirements of our users? For example, does your program or software provides capability and easy integration with our current systems? And we're talking about large enterprise systems, or it could be like in the nonprofit sectors that I have experienced, it could be maybe just integrating a chatbot within the current website that the nonprofit has, right? So it can provide automatic responses, most common frequently asked questions. So everything comes from integration into what we already have established, and maybe in the long term, the scalability and capabilities of the vendor into the program or software that we have in the long run. And we're talking maybe 3 to 5 years. And with AI, probably we're expecting a lower or a shorter time frame. But basically, it's about integration and investment. We want to know as well how you are investing in your own software to help us become more agile in the long term, and without having to switch vendors here and there, and with the capabilities that you may no longer invest into, which was the main responsibility for our clients, right? So if a vendor doesn't invest in their current system, or they are pivoting, trying different tactics as far as what is the newest and best and greatest, we may phase out the current platform that was offered from the first time.
And then how does this differ from internal research and development? I mean, you noted three different but highly regulated environments: nonprofit, telecommunications, and legal. There are legal repercussions, financial repercussions, if they don't conform to regulations, compliance. So, when you do these internal research and development projects, what are considerations there?
Yes, and again, I'm speaking for myself and my experience. What I have seen, of course, you want to make sure that no PII data is included into the possible model of the LLM per se, if we're working with that LLM project. Uh, you have to avoid PII data. You have to make sure also that if you are using any external LLM models, let's say the most common one, ChatGPT, Cloud, all that, you know that if you're not using a paid enterprise version, that data keeps feeding into the model. So you want to make sure that you have proper guardrails as far as what type of information you feed your LLM into the enterprise. And that's why you have data scientists, contracts, UAT, testing, to make sure that the model it's for the most part satisfied with the implementation.
So various quality assurance programs at various stages of development. We have Ann Cantera just saying, "Bring a technical person to the sales meeting, brother." Um, thank you for that, Ann. As a follow-on to this, we have the second topic of discussion: incorporating AI into operational workflows. So not only are you incubating projects or procuring projects on behalf of an organization, but you're also implementing it into your own workflows and the workflows of your teams. So, what are some of these different use cases that you've come across, and how do you make this safe, responsible, and how does it provide value in the context of a business?
Yes, As we can see now, AI is being incorporated in a lot of workflows. So for a legal software that you could incorporate workflows is like normally they use it's being used in drafting in the legal area. You can use some drafting and summarization to create that before it had to be done manually. Um, Now, with the use of LLM and other RAG techniques, you can come up with those artifacts quite easy. Um, so, as far as how do you ensure that it is within the guardrails, basically you have SMEs evaluating the performance of the outputs. And this is probably the final phase. At the beginning of the phase, you have to ensure that the data is clean and it has no biases, as well as you have to make sure that it's clean and RAG ready so the LLM can read it and provide an accurate or the most accurate outcome. Of course, this information gets refined as we go and we test it. But overall, it starts from the data scientist modeling with the LLM, and at the end, having the SMEs evaluating, placing the guardrails, and ongoing testing and outputs. We can prevent hallucination and improve accuracy and responsiveness from those models.
Some of this is out of your hands. So, what kind of evaluations or quality assurance programs do you have in place for operational applications? I mean, you said evaluation by SMEs, but is there a formal process for that, or you kind of just use the tool and ad hoc you flag, oh, this was not conformant to my expectations, or we missed a thing. What does that look like in practice?
Well, what I have seen in the entities, I have there is a proper and accurate standardization of the UAT, whether the response that you were provided by the LLM and RAG outputs were accurate.
When you say the UAT team, right? The user acceptance testing team?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the final, I would say the final users, it could be an external parties as far as potential users, maybe some volunteers that would like to get their hands on the first trials, and I'm talking across the board on different industries where I have seen this. But it's basically if once you have the model, your outcome is analyzed, tested, and verified by an SME. You have to have the human in the loop to make sure that this is as accurate as you want it, right? So while AI tries to automate with the workflows, improve speed, reliability, you still have to have a human evaluating the outcome to prevent those hallucinations and incorrect responses. From there, the test scenarios get passed down to the developers and additional teams that can improve the outcomes of those responses.
Now with software development, with data engineering, there's common patterns for verifying, validating, and protecting the database, the front end, the API layers.
Mhm.
Are you seeing a new pattern emerging with the protection of models as well? I mean, people try to inject prompts and manipulate the way that it functions all the time. So I'm just curious what kind of cybersecurity or validation verification processes are meant to kind of protect that in an operational setting.
Yes, correct. There are different type of cybersecurity that you can should impose in your um, AI implementations, starting from the networking aspect. Make sure that your IP addresses are whitelisted. things like that, all the way to maybe if the let's say a bot requires authentication, the systems in place have that layer of security and safeguard to prevent those type of I would say mishappenings. So yeah, there are several layers that you can implement. And of course, the more complex the organization is, the more security layers that you have to have.
Now, with the different sectors that you've taken part in your advisory roles, you've seen a lot of different changes and trends over the last 6 years, I imagine.
Mhm,
Um, what are some of these trends? Let's start exploring there, and then I have a subsequent question for you.
mhm. Yes, thank you, Joaquin. Yes, just a little bit of background. I've been in technology for forever, since the 1990s, and back then, you had to code HTML to build a website. You remember your tags and all that. All the way now, fast forward to AI. So now, getting from the AI, um, you have what I've experienced is an evolution from maybe Six Sigma type of projects, then later with automation, um, RPAs, we're talking RPAs and all that, and now using the different LLM technologies. And so what I'm seeing now is a move to agentic AI. Um, so what probably a couple years ago, it was more of a deterministic AI, as to where the AI was already predefined with the response, right? Is the answer yes, you go to this path. The answer is no, you go to this path. So now it's agentic. So I would say for the next year or two, agentic AI is really the what I foresee, and we'll see what else comes from there.
You mentioned RPA, robotic process automation, where people record the actions that need to be taken, and the workflows that are replicated from user facing software angles. um, do you see some sort of hybrid composite use of RPA and LLMs, so that you have the deterministic behavior that has been reliable in the past with some of the verbosity and the expressiveness of LLMs? How do you see that emerging as a hybrids? Because
Mm.
everything has a pros and cons use case for. So I'm curious how you're managing that.
Yes, good question, because my experience on that, on trying to integrate an RPA with AI, um, it was definitely a challenge, mostly because the RPAs from time to time, they are local in the local network, and trying to integrate with the cloud where the LLMs and all the AI software now lives. It added a layer of complexity that at the end it wasn't worth following. So we had to switch tactics, and with agentic, is we're looking at agentic to solve that one problem that we tried to tackle with the current RPA solution that existed.
Are there any particular use cases that you are eager for applying agentic? And are there any that you are absolutely opposed to at this time in the maturity of the technology and the organizational adoption?
Yes. Well, the most common implementation that I can foresee in the many industries is basically account access. It's, for the most part, pretty straightforward. As long as you can implement all the backend work properly, and they all the nuts and bolts are in place, right? So agentic could be an a great example of that, and implementing it will be so much easier using agentic AI than using deterministic AI, in my experience. I am not. I haven't given a thought about what not to implement with agentic. Right now, I think the more we can do with the agentic capabilities and the opportunities that it provides, I think it is worth exploring. It's also worth to mention that with the as fast as the technologies are moving, it's worth that to give it a trial and error, right? With the proper guardrails. But if it doesn't work out, move on, try something else, look for other solutions. But a clear example is the RPA implementation that I experienced. It just took months after months and a couple meetings here and there until we finally decided to go through a different route. But no, agentic is definitely the near-term solution, and then we can see what else it can be. What other tools we have available overall in the AI space.
Two particular use cases that I've seen that have been very interesting to me. I saw Schneider Electric in Germany. They were taking programmable logic controller, the language and the interface used to like program them.
Mhm.
There was a deficit of skilled engineers that were capable of doing that. So they use generative AI locally trained with PLC specific coding languages to templatize and improve the production of that kind of code.
Mhm.
Um, and then in Ecuador, I forget the name of the bank, but they were using generative AI to generate test cases and test specific unit tests.
Mhm.
Um, is that something that you're also looking into for RPA and quality assurance?
Yes, definitely. I have seen initiatives, and I will be involving with those type of agentic uses for testing as well. That's a good point, Joaquin. So yeah, the use cases are there are so many. It's whether we want to prioritize and the roadmap, right? So depending on what we need to focus, whether it's providing faster and more accuracy to the users, but as well internally, right, across the industries that we want to improve the capabilities and save time internally, so we can expedite the use cases that are in the backlog.
Last question for you. Use cases are unlimited.
Mhm.
Constraints and road mapping and budget are limited. How do you view the computational cost associated with generative AI and agent development? Um, how do you measure those budgets and how much is allocated towards that?
Um, Budget wise, there has to be an agreement probably from the main stakeholders about what what you can have and use and how to best use it, and what revenues or cost savings you will bring from that implementation and allocation of the budget. So sometimes you may get a certain amount, but the cost savings also mitigate that amount. So at the end, it really comes down from the stakeholders, what their priorities are, what the budget is. But at the end, as a program manager, you want to make sure that you remain on time, on budget, and everything else. So
Have you seen a an appetite to subsidize this research and development in favor of or in hope of the cost savings?
good question. At this point, that intersection hasn't happened. I think for the most part, the appetite to implement AI is the priority, as we can see that across the board there are real time saving, cost savings, and a lot of improvement that the AI technologies can bring.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Manuel. We're going to take a brief intermission and then we're going to be back with the next session. Manuel, we're going to see you in the panel discussion and we're ready to rock for the next one.
Sounds good. Thank you, Joaquin.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
See you soon.
Bye all.